An investment strategy that has been proven over the past 200 years. Invest in the tycoons. What do I mean by that? The people who change the world you live in. Do you know who these four guys are? One's Cornelius Vanderbilt. He created the shipping and railroad industries that we know today. The second is John D. Rockefeller. He contributed the oil industry that we know today. And then you have Andrew Carnegie, and he created the steel industry that we know today. And then there's Henry Ford, and he created the automobile industry. So with that known, then why don't we invest in the tycoons of the future? Well, we did again when we invested in Steve Jobs, Bill Gates, Sergey Brin, Larry Page, Jeff Bezos, and Mark Zuckerberg. So who are the tycoons of the next 10 years? I know who they are, and I'm going to share that with you so that you can use this proven investment strategy to make yourself a millionaire like the millionaires have been made in the past.
Best of Us Investors presents Carrie Griegmeyer.
I know this all seems too simple to be true, but think about it. Over the past 200 years, we had to develop a shipping and railroad industry. We had to develop an oil, steel, and automotive industry, and they have driven our society. And then in the late 80s, we were introduced into the digital revolution, which evolved into the e-commerce and then evolved into social media. And then we dealt with global warming, which has brought about the electric vehicle industry. So these are all things that are driven by change, and individuals step up and say, I've got an idea. I think I know how to correct the situation that we find ourselves in, to better our society, and to use the technology that we've gained in the past and apply it to the problems that we have in the future. And that's where we're at right now. So I ask myself, if I know where we've been in the past and I know where we are now and I know the problems that we have in the future, then all I have to do is find the people that are working on those problems to solve our problems, and I can figure out who the tycoons of the future are. Well, what are the problems that we have today? Remember that coronavirus that pretty much destroyed our economy, destroyed the world's economy, killed 1 million people? I just saw somebody say, why is there such a shortage of people to be employed? Well, we did kill 1 million people, and then there is probably 3 times that are suffering from the consequences. That could be a part of the problem of unemployment or not enough employment or jobs. That could be part of the problem. And then we also know that we pumped $9 trillion into the economy to solve that problem because we recognized it as a big problem. So with that in mind, I can say that's a problem. We need somebody to solve it. Who's working on it? And I came up with some people. I also know that we have a problem of global warming, and there's some people who are working to solve that through the electric vehicle world. So I look to say, who are the tycoons of the future who are involved in that area? We know that there's a supply chain problem. We know there's a globalization problem. We've become too dependent on other nations to provide us with the necessities of our life. We know there's a cybersecurity problem. Well, if we know all those things and we know we've got to change it, then all we've got to do is find the people who are leading the change. I want you to look at this group of people that I found, and I'll go through them and explain to you why I think they are the tycoons of the future, the people who are going to change our world. And then I'm going to ask you to give me your ideas on who the tycoons of the future are. First one there on the far left would be George Church. George is a professor at Harvard. He is a co-founder of a company called Editus Medicine. Editus Medicine was also part founded by Jennifer Doudna and several other people, and they were the leaders in this process that is called CRISPR, that is driven by genome sequencing. And it's all about the fact that we have mutations in our body that are a result of what our ancestors did hundreds of years ago to create these mutations. God didn't give them to us, and they have found a way to use CRISPR, our first responder in our body by natural, and attach a cassette to it that can go in and cut out those mutations, that cancer mutation that is in my body, and replace it with the right mutation. That's what CRISPR is all about. And George was one of the co-founders of Analyses, who is one of the companies that I own in that field. Then, coming across the first row is Feng Zhang. He is a part of the Board Institute of MIT. He also is a co-founder of Analyses, and he is the person who put forth the paper that thus far looks like is going to hold the patent on this whole CRISPR science. And he also owns companies by the name of Beam. So I know he owns Beam and Analyses. He's involved. A lot of these faces I'm showing you, particularly in the biotech field, have their hands and their fingers in various companies because they're scientists, and they invent something, and then they create a company. A businessman comes in, they create a company around that, as Analyses is, and has George and has Feng. So we know they are, but then they come up with new science, and they take that and they form another company, and that's how Zhang is involved in both Beam and Analyses. Then we come to the pretty little lady in the front, and that's Emmanuelle Descarpentier. She is a founder of the company CRISPR. Yes, it is. They got the name of the science, CRISPR, and CRISPR Therapeutics. It's a Swiss company. She's in Switzerland, and she is a co-winner of the Nobel Prize for Chemistry in 2020. So she's kind of one of the queens. The second queen is the lady standing next to her, and that's Jennifer Doudna. Jennifer also, it was partial award winner of the Peace Prize for Science. This book is about Jennifer and really about the industry. It tells you all the names and how they interrelate, and it's my Bible for what is this industry all about and who are the tycoons that are going to come out of it when this science becomes part of our life. Then we go to our back row, and you know who Elon Musk is. He's one of the most brilliant engineers in the world, and he's involved in Tesla and SpaceX. So this has to be somebody that you invest in one way or the other. I don't like to invest in the auto industry, so I am not involved in Tesla. I do not like his exposure to China. So this is one that I have chosen to pass on, not because I think it is not a good investment, but I think there are better investments. The guy next to him in the back row is Jensen Huang. He is the founder and CEO of NVIDIA, and they are making the chips that go into the computers to process the big data that is held by Amazon, Google, Microsoft, and Apple. And so I believe that he is one of the tycoons, because as we move some manufacturing of chips and some semiconductors to our shores, this is going to be a tremendous growth industry. So I think Jensen will stand adjacent to some of these others as we look at the tycoons of the 2020s. And then the last one is Alex carp. I believe Alex is a genius. I believe that he is an in-your-face genius that, hey, if you don't like what I have to do, that's okay. Just hang on. I'll be okay. And in 5 years, I'll be running my show. What is his show? His show is building the software for companies, for manufacturers, for anybody who is looking to bring data together and then put it into an operating system. I mean, it's one thing to hold the data and to be able to sort it, but then to use it is another issue. It's kind of like you got the internal combustion engine. Now what are you going to do with it? Well, that's what Alex does as far as I interpret it. So I see Alex as one of my tycoons of the future. And how long is the future? As I showed you the first one with the shipping and the oil, and that developed over about a 150-year period of time. But when we went to the last 40 years of e-commerce, that developed over the past 40 years. Now I would say this group of people, we're looking the next 5 to 10 years, 10 years at the longest. And what I know is probably in 5 years, we'll be looking at a whole new group of people, because as we introduce artificial intelligence, machine learning, and quantum computing, it's going to make what we're doing now obsolete. Now, will the Googles and the Apples and the Microsoft and Facebooks, will they keep up? I suspect they will, because they have the money, they have the talent. I believe that Apple and Google and Amazon will be major players in the medical revolution, because the science is there, but somebody has to deliver it. Somebody has to make it a part of you and I's lives. Who is most involved in you and I's lives? Apple, Google, Amazon, Microsoft, and Facebook. Facebook will come back. Now, I'm not holding Facebook right now because I think they made some mistakes and they've got to reinvent themselves. But the thesis of this video is that you look for the tycoons. You look for the Vanderbilts. You look for the Rockefellers. You look for the people who are going to change your world. They changed the world, as did Jeff Bezos, Steve Jobs, and Bill Gates. They changed our world. The world is not going to stay stagnant. So understand that, and then look for the people. Look for the change, but look for the people who are going to facilitate that change. Now, what I want from you is, who are your tycoons? Who are the people you think are going to join my group of people? Who's going to go in that third row? Or who's going to push my first row aside and say, no, this is who's going to be the leaders of our changing world? I want to know from you. Now, you can put it in the comments and get lost in all the bots and crap that shows up on these channels that YouTube needs to do something about, because I'm not going to spend my day deleting them. Or you can come to my Discord. And we're not going to call it a Discord anymore. We're going to come to our community. I called it a tribe for a while. We're going to call it our community. And I want you to come there. You'll find a link to it in the description. And I got to thinking the other day, the description is not easy to find. It's that little line down there below that says more. Go to there and find your way to our Discord, or go to bestofusinvestors.com and tell me, who do you believe the tycoons of the 2020s and the 2030s are going to be? Who are we going to look back and say, wow, they changed our world? All right, that's what this channel's all about. Not so much what's happening today. Don't really care. but what's going to happen tomorrow, because that's where I'm going to make my next million. Talk to you again tomorrow.